Something that the Pokemon Company has been doing is replacing the traditional third version, so your Pokemon Emerald and Platinum, or the enhanced versions like Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, sequels, Black 2 and White 2. They've been replacing these with DLC. We saw this start with Sword and Shield getting the Isle of Armor and Crown Tundra DLCs instead of a Pokemon gun or something, and then we also saw this continue in Scarlet and Violet, getting the Teal Mask and the Indigo Disc instead of a Pokemon Indigo or something like that. Now, I am a big fan of this, but it does make me look back at these past Pokemon games that did get these third versions and kind of wonder, man, what could DLC looked like for these games? And that's exactly the kind of series that I'm going to present and potentially start with this video, of course, if it does well. Starting all the way back in Gen 1, what if Kanto had DLC? Welcome back to the Lumiose Post, where we talk about all things Pokemon. You know what we're talking about today, Kanto DLC. So this kind of gets complicated because what Kanto are we talking about, right? Are we talking about the Gen 1 games, the Gen 3 games, or the Gen 7 games? You know, we're excluding the Johto games having Kanto in them because those are primarily Johto games, and I wanted to look at what I think is the most complete version of these games, and that is FireRed and LeafGreen. You know, FireRed and LeafGreen does add on to the originals by giving us the Sevi Islands, so it would be easy for me to cheat and say, well, you know, red, green, blue, yellow, if they got DLC, it would be the Sevi Islands. End of video. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to look at FireRed and LeafGreen and say, they've already got the Sevi Islands, the DLC has to be something new. And then I'm immediately going to follow up with that and say, we're going to cheat and we're going to do Johto. But hear me out here, because that's not the end of the video. I want to talk about all the ideas that you can present here. So the idea would be that you would visit the Johto region after Kanto. I think this would be a really neat twist, because traditionally we're used to, if we get to play through both Johto and Kanto, we play through Johto first, and then we do Kanto, right? But no, not this time. This time you will be visiting the Johto region second, which allows for the gym battles you have in that region to be a bit more advanced, you know? Instead of battling Faulkner with a Hoodoo and a Pidgeotto, you'll be battling him with a full team, and on that team is likely a Noctowl and a Pidgeot, right? And likewise for the other gym leaders. I mean, if you thought Whitney's Miltank was bad before, now imagine it at level 70. But there also has to be some plot to these games. Now, since the DLC wouldn't take place 2 years after the events of Red and Blue, we would be looking at something before the Johto arc. So I'm not going to say, well, the DLC plot would be the Johto Team Rocket plot. Instead, I would say something smaller, you know? Perhaps you can do something like there's an offshoot of Team Rocket like we saw in the Sevi Islands that's also in Johto, and you shut that down. That, you know, doesn't change the continuity, but it also still leaves room for, oh, so there's little fragments of Team Rocket in Johto. You know, you have to figure there is that Team Rocket base under Mahogany Town. I imagine that that's not from the new Team Rocket trying to bring back Giovanni. I imagine that's an old base that had been there a long time. I mean, we know Giovanni had some ties to the Johto region, as we know that all the Team Rocket admins you meet in the Johto games did know Giovanni. And then also there's, of course, the stuff with Silver, and also you could get some implications that, like, oh, Giovanni's got a son out there, things like that. Again, we wouldn't see Silver, and we would not battle Silver because he is not yet a Pokemon trainer. He won't be one for another 2 years, but you get the idea. So the idea here would be that these Team Rocket admins, the Johto admins, would be refusing to believe that Team Rocket's officially over and would still be going through their operations. Your job is to, while you're completing the Johto gyms, be going through these Team Rocket bases, be encountering these admins, and, you know, it often be met with like a, hey, you guys can stop, Giovanni's done, he's not doing this anymore. They'd reply with, no, we don't believe you, Giovanni would never give up. You battle them, you defeat them, and they realize, oh, okay, we might be cooked. And that would be it until, of course, 2 years later, they rise again. Now, one thing I really liked that Johto has done is have the Battle Frontier. So this Battle Frontier, I imagine, could pop up in, like, the second DLC. So what you do is you break this up, because DLC typically comes in 2 parts, right? That's the way we saw it with the Isle of Armor and the Crown Tundra, the Teal Mask and the Indigo Disc. So we need this and that, right? And I think that it would be cool to let us go to Johto, but don't let us go to Mount Silver, and don't let us go to the Battle Frontier that exists next to Olivine City. Then the second DLC would be much more battle-focused. Now, at the Indigo Plateau, there's been a change up. Some gym leaders have, some Elite Four members have kind of overtaken spots. Koga, that gym leader from Kanto, has overtaken a spot. So this would allow you in the second DLC only to take on the Johto Elite Four, who have now managed to replace the Kanto ones. Perhaps Lance is now the champion, I don't know. Or it could even be a mix of them, right? Like, so instead of it being all the Johto ones or all the Kanto ones, you're still seeing the process of the changes, right? So Bruno's still there, of course. He's stuck out through both regions. By the way, he is a goat, right? Then maybe Karen's there and Lorelai's gone. But Lance is still an Elite Four member, and so William is not yet an Elite Four member. And then maybe Koga has taken the place of Agatha. Things like that, I think, could make a lot of sense. This could also allow you to then return to the Sevii Islands. You know, one thing I like about DLC is they'll kind of add things to the other areas, whether it's just chasing down a bunch of millionaires in Paldea or legendary Pokemon in Paldea, or if it's competing in the Galarian Star tournament in the mainland Galar region. We could see us being able to go back to Sevii Islands just to see Lorelai on her home island, and she's retired and all. Maybe we learn what's happened to Agatha, maybe get some kind of story, like a little subplot with her and Oak. I think just what will be beautiful with the Kanto game is, because this was such a early game, right? This was in the earliest days of Pokemon, so you don't have these strong character arcs and character stories that are taking place there. And so I think that's what this second DLC should do. While the first one gives you this whole Johto plot, is massive in terms of just what it's adding, this one is smaller in the sense of what areas it's adding, but bigger in terms of what it's doing for the lore for these regions. You're getting more of these character arcs. They're fleshing out more of these towns. They're fleshing out more of these characters in Kanto that we know and love because they've been here for over 25 years, but we don't really know and love, you know what I mean? I think this would be the perfect way to go about this. So all in all, the perfect Kanto DLC, in my opinion, would be, or the perfect Kanto game, we'll lay out the whole game, would be FireRed and LeafGreen. You have the Kanto region at its finest and the Sevii Islands as a post-game. But then DLC comes out for it the following year. You go to the Johto region, you're telling these Johto Team Rocket admins that, hey, Giovanni's done, y'all are done now, we're not doing this anymore, while also taking on the Johto League. Then in the second DLC, you are able to go to Mount Silver, and perhaps here is where you find maybe Gary, who now is done with taking on the League, and now he's, you know, managing that gym and has some kind of existential crisis, which would then kind of give a bit of reasoning to why Red's place is Mount Silver, is because it was a huge moment between him and his rival, who also is, let's be frank, his best friend, Gary or Blue, whatever you named the character as, Jerkhead, whatever you named him in Red and Blue. And then also you would be able to take on a mix, or perhaps just the brand new Johto Elite Four. You would be able to take on the Battle Frontier over in the Johto region. All of this, plus the character stories by revisiting towns and stuff, I think this would make for a beautiful game, and would be like the perfect anniversary game, right? Like this would be like such a cool thing to drop, like on the 35th anniversary. 30th anniversary, I want Gen 10, so sorry Pokemon, I want that, not Kanto. But you get what I mean. Be sure to let me know what you think of this idea for what Kanto DLC could look like. Do you have any ideas for Kanto DLC? Let me know in the comments below. If you like the series, like it, comment, share it, all that stuff. Hit the bell for notifications, subscribe, so that I know you like this video, and I know to continue with Johto, then Hoenn, and so on and so on. Thank you all so much, and until next time, I will see all of you later.